Dezamanita wali inoda tongu wenchi di kubuni di kujuta futuluma wonfu di genyose afaga bevai mahiru dogonu materu naba mahiru naba mahiru naba prophet nebnaba la musa moro din big dog on the truth teller. The prophet Nebnabala Musa Moro than big. The chosen one, the Messiah. Basa ile mugenaba mazi otobile bana bilege naba isina basa ile mugenaba dikizi yomte difese na merite bia no ifese anye kizi yomte nyamfese dikizi yomte difese anya dile maheru shinyefe merite bia inala hotela chosen one, the Messiah. He is the chosen one and the Messiah. He's the light and the way, the wisdom of our days, the healer, the preacher, the truth teller. Bangati dogo nunge, bisina pasake. La Musa moro din big. Dog on the truth teller. Nabnaba la Musa moro than big. That Dezamanita wali inoda tongu wenchi di kubuni di kujuta futuluma wonfu di genyose afaga bevai mahiru dogonu materu naba mahiru naba mahiru naba prophet nebnaba la musa moro din big dog on the truth teller. The chosen one, the Messiah. Isina basa ile mugenaba mazi otobile bana bilege naba isina basa ile mugenaba dikizi yomte difese na merite bia no ifese anye kizi yomte nyamfese dikizi yomte difese anya dile maheru shinyefe merite bia inala hotela inana bao tuvunu matero naba maheru naba prophet nebnaba la musa moro din big dog on the truth teller. The prophet nebnaba la musa moro din big the chosen one, the Messiah. the healer, the preacher, the truth teller. Bangati to gununge, listen up a second, but you're before chosen one, the Messiah. Bangati to gununge, listen up a second, but you're before Bangati to gununge, listen up a second, but you're before Manita wali inoda tongu wenchi di kubuni di kututa futuluma wafu di genyose afaga bevai maheru tokonu materu naba maheru naba maheru naba prophet nebnaba la musa moro the big dog on the truth teller. The prophet Nebnabala Musa more than the big, the chosen one, the Messiah. It's in a basa ilemugenaba. Mazi, otobile bana bilege naba. Isina basa ilemoge naba. Dikizi yomte defese, dikizi yomte defese. Namerite biya no ifese, namerite biya no ifese. Anye kizi yomte nyamfese, dikizi yomte defese. Anya dile maheru shinye fese, namerite biya no inala hotela, inane bao. The truth teller. The prophet Nebnabala Musa more than the big, the chosen one, the Messiah. He is the chosen one and the Messiah. He's the light and the way, the wisdom of our days. The healer, the preacher, the truth teller. Bangati to gununge, listen up a second, but you're before the chosen one, the Messiah. Bangati to gununge, listen up a second, but you're before Bangati to gununge, listen up a second.
Ujai, and welcome to the Wisdom of the Nile show. And I'm your host tonight. My name is Nehibsa Nesebik, and I'm here representing the Health Center. And we're broadcasting on Bless FM. Tonight's show, yeah, so first of all, I'd like to kind of say, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Wisdom of the Nile show. And first of all, I would like to acknowledge and honor and validate the divine world. I'd also like to acknowledge, honor, and validate the world of the dead. And most of all, I'd like to acknowledge and honor and validate Nebnaba Lamusa Moradenebik, who has brought the Earth Center to the Western world, really. So I would just like to give you a brief synopsis, just an overview, like on for those who are first just tuning in, and they don't know what the Earth Center is about and how it actually came here. I would just like to give you a quick overview, like of who Nebnaba Musa Morandenevik is. And he was a high priest. Nebnaba was a high priest. He was a Dogon high priest from a village in Burkina Faso, and he belonged to a lineage of healers, tracing themselves back to the Nile Valley civilization. Now, Nebnaba dedicated his life to bringing the traditional culture to humanity, for the state that humanity was in, basically. So his mission really was to try to educate us here in the West and give us the opportunity to move forward. Now, in 1995, Nebnaba he embarked on an unprecedented journey across the globe. After he received the blessings from the Gulmi royalties and the dignitaries of the temples of Kemet. And as I said, our mission was to bring the knowledge of the existing Kemet temple to the general public for the benefit of humanity. Now, he opened the first Earth Center school in 1998, but he first went to the Americas in 1995, where he first kind of started off the Firefly magazine. And so in 1998, he actually opened the first Earth Center school in Chicago, Illinois. And then he further went on to open another two schools, one in New York and the other in San Diego. Now, Nebnaba, he actually spoke multiples of, I think, about 5 or 6 different languages. And he also went through initiation himself from a very young age. And, you know, after his transition in 2008, he was referred to as the Makaru, which that interpreted as the truth teller. And after his transition, his son, Naba Irita Shemira, continued to expand the school across the globe. And he basically, we're now at, I think, about 9 different schools now and expanding. 6 of those schools are in the USA. We have 2 here in the UK and another 2 further school in Montreal in Canada. Now, the Earth Center itself, it consists of 4 different branches. And the first branch is the M-Time School of Kemetic Philosophy and Spirituality, where 3 subjects are taught. And the first subject is the Medu Mahit, which is the hieroglyphs. That's what the Greeks call it anyway. which is humanity's first language. Now, with the Medu language itself, it enables us to help to expand and to stimulate the brain. And if you come along and see what the Medu is, you realize that it does do that. Because to construct a sentence in Medu is very difficult because of the way that we've been taught in the West. We say things that don't really have no value to it. It doesn't make no sense. And when you kind of try to kind of formulate something in this Medu language, you realize how much we have been mistaught really by the system that we're in, which is what they call education. But as we know, it's a form of
conditioning
to conform. So the Medu itself, it actually helps you to reorientate your brain to start to look at things as the word orientate means is to turn around. So it's basically doing that. It's helping you to kind of say to function in the way that you should have been functioning originally, not the way that we are now. And we're given this English language, which we know is just a dialect, and it limits us really to how far we can even express ourselves. The difference between the Medu and the English is that the English alphabet, it carries like 26 alphabet, whereas the Medu, it has about 300 and odd different sounds, because the actual words the letters are sounds. And about 400 and odd different ideograms. So it gives you a wide range really of how you can express yourself really in that language. Now, the next class that we have there is the Katibi. And in Katibi we do like the meditation, which is like yoga. Well, this is where they kind of say get yoga and all these other different kind of meditations and so forth from really. And in this class here we learn about the creation story, about our cosmogony, not what we're given in the Bible as what we think is how creation started. So this class really basically kind of say, give you the understanding of where everything actually started from. Yeah. In the Katibi class, this is where you learn like all the prayers. You learn, well, the prayers themselves really, they're quite old prayers. And when we do our daily zemzems, we use these prayers, or we say these prayers during our zemzem. Yeah. And it kind of, there's a lot to this class really, so and the next class is the Sunt, which is a healing class. When we say healing, it's a class, right, where we learn about the body functions from a traditional perspective, and the techniques that our ancestors used for assessing and diagnosing ailments that the body would concur. So this class really is about healing, and preserving ourselves really. So that's the free class that comes under the section. Then the next section of the Earth Center is the Firefly Production Publishing House of the Earth Center. And here this is where all the knowledge, the fireflies, like the Philosophy Podium, Edge Patar, the Sunnyside magazines, Firefly, the Code of Human Behavior, which is what we call the 77 Commandment. We have the Book of Purification, That book, it's basically showing you how to kind of cleanse yourself before you actually start doing your zemzems. And so there's stages you go through before you actually present yourself to the deities, to the Netarus and your ancestors. And they also published the Mandela of Dendera, which is a map of the sky. And here it's like this is where you see like all the constellation that what they call like the zodiac. That this is where they're getting that from. And the Dendera is it's a very accurate description of what the sky actually looks like. So we also have the sidereal calendar, which is a Kemetic calendar, and this calendar we'll speak a little bit about it later on. It's a very it basically gives us like all our spiritual days, days we worship, days we don't worship, the days that we rest, all our divine holidays, our ancestral days, and a lot of other different information is catalogued within this calendar. And so it gives you like each day you see each decan, it gives you like which netter is actually governing that decan there, and the month. We'll go into a little bit into that one later on, but and the next section there is the Ancestor natural healing, which is provided by the priests who are devoted to preserving traditional and medical kind of spiritual knowledge. Here, they do like earth energy readings. You can get natural herbs, which there's a range of different herbs that you can get, for different ailments and things in Ancaster. And these are all natural herbs grown and selected by the healers and the priests, really. And they've been doing these. They understand the herbs and the properties in them, and the benefits from them. And so that the Ancaster, this is what you get from that section there. Then you have what we call it like the project in Marita, which is where in the tradition they try to maintain the way that they go about producing and manufacturing, producing our food in a natural kind of organic way, as opposed to the GMO kind of crops that we've been given as food here in the West. And they're also kind of rebuilding back some of the temples and the things which were destroyed. They also do their fresh wells to get fresh water to serve the community. And so their aim is to get things back and to continue that traditional way of living, of what our ancestors used to do. So that's the 4 different sections of the Earth Center. We would like to just kind of just read out some we'd like to kind of read out some information about the temple. It's 21 Sunnyside Road, and it's London E10 7BB. And the email for the Earth Center is inquiries-uk@theearthcenter.org. And our telephone number for that specific temple is 0207 175 4144. And the Facebook is the Earth Center UK, and Twitter is Kebtah, KEBTAH UK, and its Instagram is at the Earth Center of UK. And we also have another branch, another school in Coventry, and for those who are that side of the country, you can tell your friends and family that there is, it's not just here in London. We have a temple. We also have the Coventry branch, and you can contact them there really on 024762665859. And the other number is 0730599594, and the address is 18 Biggin All Crescent, and it's CV31GS, and that's the Coventry branch. Yeah, so for all those really who are on that side of the country, who probably might be listening and might be interested to come and sit in and see basically kind of and hear what the Earth Center is about, this is where you can reach us from those two locations here in the UK. We would just like to give out the studio number, and it's 07944431366. So the number for the studio, just in case someone would like to, interact with us later on, then that number is the studio number. I'll read it out again. 07944431366, and you can also get us on the www.blessfm.org, or I suppose if you go to TuneIn as well, you can pick up Bless FM on the TuneIn app as well, if you've got that on your phones. So I'll just play you a short interlude from a Bob Marley selection, and before we go into the other section.
From the bottomless pit,
Turamagan tere manden kele mansali. Indongli ye turamagan silulema. Bunyani jigiya menyal kan. Alial jantola. Beni faciale. Ali sona jabate jire. Turamagan sile. Dobrete. Facia kole. Turamagan tere manden kele mansali. Indongli ye turamagan silulema. Bunyani jigiya menyal kan. Alial jantola. Beni faciale. Ali sona jabate jire. Turamagan sile. Dobrete. Facia kole.
Kele mandi da kadena wani kele
Turamagan tere manden kele mansali. Indongli ye turamagan silema. Bonyani jigiya men yalkan. Ali al jantola. Beni faciale. Ali sona jabatejre turamagan sile. Dogbrete facia kole.
Kele mandi dan kadena wani kele make
Turamagan tere manden kele mansali. Nin dongli ye turamagan sil lema. Bonyani jigiya men yal kan. Al yal jantola. Beni faciale. Ali sona jabate jere turamagan sile. Dogbrete facia kole.
Ujai, welcome back to the Wisdom of the Nile show. This section here really, we're just gonna go over, well, it was just a question that I was asking a friend the other day really, right? Is it appropriate to ask someone their age? And if so, under what circumstances would you be willing to reveal your age? And so that was the question, really, right? And it just led on to me thinking, well, okay, within the society that we live in, age is like one of these negative things, really, right? That people, that's the society, the system, basically make people feel conscious about how old they are, and not appreciating really who, what's been given to them, because you're blessed, really, right, to live to an age where you can say, see your grey hairs. For me personally, I've seen a lot of my friends and things around me that's passed away at a very young age. And we see that, like, in the corporate world, they are what they call ages. And that's because they might feel that you've passed your sell-by date. And so when you reach that age, 50, 55, you know, you are more likely to be made redundant, really. Like if they're trying to slim down the workplace, you're probably one of those potential people, really, who is more likely to be one of those on the list. And one of the reasons why they do that, really, is that because they can employ a younger person, probably pay them, say, a smaller wage to do the same work. And this is ageism, really, age discrimination. They're treating someone unfairly because of their age, and although you might be protected by the Equality Act, this still affects you, really. The way society sees, people kind of say getting in their age, really, they are discriminated against. Examples of ageism is like, say, you can technically like lose your job. You're being refused, kind of, say, interest-free credits. Things like car insurance, travel insurance, credit cards, things like that. People, they say that you're too old, really, right? So you don't qualify for those things no more. I've known cases where people, like on the medical side of things, where they're denied certain referrals from their doctor to see a consultant, and that's like age discrimination there, really. And as I said, I presently know someone who's going through that, really, right? And the consequence of that is that they're suffering dearly for it now, really, because they're having problems with their doctor kind of making that referral. So consequently, what they're suffering with is getting worse and worse. And society doesn't really, they don't really respect age. It's kind of one of those things, right, where we see like in the Kemetic society, age is something which is respected. They value age. Age is very, very important things, really. The culture is not so sensitive about people's age, really. They tend to have respect for the elderly, because we know that life is a cycle, and as we're born, we're gonna die. And if you're privileged, really, right, to see old age, then that in that traditional culture, that society, there is a community there that would look after their elderly, as opposed to here in the West. We see where when you get old, really, like you're put into some kind of old people's home, really, right, and you're left there to pass away quietly by yourself. You have to question them, really, like in the Kemetic, in a traditional way, we see our knowledge is passed on from the elderly to the young. So if you can imagine, really, like, say, if that's the way you're going to be treating your elders, then how is the young are going to be able to educate themselves, really, right, to say, to move forward, if that contact that they should have, that continuation to perfect, to better what's been given to them, if the elderly, really, right, is being discriminated against, and they're not given that opportunity to pass that knowledge on, as I say, to the young, then how does that society develop, really? Um, you know, we we see, we see kind of say many employers. I mean, in a lot of the workplaces now, um, I think when you do like a job application, uh, in some cases, they might not be asking for your date of birth or what age you are. Um, Although there's no law to say that they can't ask for it, some employers don't do it, but some of them do, because they take that information there really right for monitoring what they call diversity, just to make sure that they have like a proportionate range across the spectrum, really, like from old people to young people, really, right? Just like they do with like race, like equality for women, that kind of stuff. They're really where the society, they make laws. There's a law for everything here, really, right? Because there's no fair play here, really. It's about making money, and that's how the society operate. You know, is wherever they can save, then that person will be the one really right to be put in place really right to kind of do what they want them to do. There is what they call like direct discrimination, where workers over 50 probably should receive higher redundancy payment for each year they're working for their employers, because what they say is like after you reach that certain age, that age of 50, you will struggle to find a job. So part of this direct discrimination really is that, say they will pay a worker like say a week for every year that they've been working at the workplace, as opposed to a younger person, they're paid less. So they know the system out there really, right? So it's like they're saying, well, they're giving you that little bit extra there because they know that the chances are you might not find another job really, right? Or it's going to take you longer. So yeah, they give you that little cushion, or that's what they call it, right? So that you you're supposed to have that little buffer. In a lot of cases, we see a lot of people give up when they reach that age there because they get frustrated because they struggle to find that job because of their age. There are cases, out there where, like on medical reasons, right, where um, we can see it's important to ask or to find out someone's age. Like we see nowadays, really, right? There's like they say, once you reach 40 and over, coming up to 50, as for a man, especially like a black male, you're more likely to have to have like prostate cancer. So there are some cases, right, where it's relevant to find out a person's age. And for women, it's like when they reach a certain age, again, they probably might be checking them like mammogram, breast cancer, cervical cancer, that kind of stuff there. So we can see where age sometimes where it's important really, right, that they would pose this question there, to know your age. But in a lot of cases, really, in terms of employment, that age discrimination really, like, they recognize, as I said, although there are laws that they're not supposed to discriminate against age, we know that it does happen, but and in some cases, as I said, you can understand why it's important or why they would want to ask that question, as to say what age you are, really. So, um, you know, social environment, again, kind of, you know, sometimes we see people like they feel a little bit uncomfortable, especially like a woman when you ask them their age. There is, you know, there's this, well, why do you want to know my age? Kind of, it's my right. It's like they take it as a form of disrespect. In this English culture, you know, there is this, you know, it's supposed to be like a culture of distinction between what they define as being a woman or a lady. So by asking a woman her age, in some cases she's, you know, it's implying that she's not a lady. It's like you're demeaning her, really, right? And it's taken as an insult. And that was a question that I actually asked a female friend of mine, really, like, would you be offended if I was to ask you your age? And she said, yeah. And I thought that was interesting. You know, the question was, why would you be, would you be offended? If that's what you are, why not, you know, why should it be such a big deal to reveal what your age is? But in that incident there, they couldn't really give like a justifiable, logical answer as to the reason why not. And so I phoned around a few people, really, right, and thought I'd pose that question just to see the reaction that I would get. And there was a balance there. You know, some people mind, some people didn't. But it was interesting, really, that that the ones them that didn't want to reveal their age just couldn't logically find an answer as to the reason why not, you know. But yet, because I think society plays on that, really, right, then they just kind of you know, go along with it, really, not knowing why, you know. We see in the tradition, really, where the family structure, as I said, in the tradition, age is respected because, as we say, the knowledge, you know, is supposed, as they say, knowledge is supposed to be shared, not kept. And if the way society kind of dumb you down and put you in a little corner because you've reached that sell-by date, according to them, really, is like there's a disconnection between the elderly and the young, which it doesn't allow for that continuation, as I was saying before, you know, for information, really, right, to kind of say to be passed on. And we understand that even like in our tradition, in our traditional culture, this is where, like, say, groups like the Dogons, this is where they were able to kind of to have the knowledge that they have, because that knowledge was passed on. And so when a person get to a certain age that they felt like they were going to pass on, then they would pass that knowledge down. So there was always that continuation there, really. And, you know, within that society, in that community, like, you know, I'm from Jamaica there, really, right? There was always that extended family. So the elderly was always looked after, you know. I don't think I don't think there's a stigma much there, really, within the traditional. It's more like a European thing, I think. I mean, we see back in the, you know, when things was yeah, things was kind of there's food shortage and things. It was back in those days, really. It was, in order for them to survive with the little food that they had due to the environment that they were in. When you reach certain age, you will be put like the sacrifice that was put on the plate, so to speak, really, right? So we can see like from then really, rather than kind of saying uh, hating that person there really because they could no longer kind of look after themselves. It's like it was, they would get rid of them, you know, and that's their take on age. So I suppose that just continued on really, right, where there is that negative stigma about people revealing their age. Um, this society, has created it's created this phobia, and it's this is against the natural principles of nature, really, because the cycle of life is coming into the world, and if you're blessed in living to become an old age and get grey, with dignity, without fear of being victimized and penalized, and people they they don't feel no way about kind of saying what they are. After all, if you do live to old age, you should be blessed. You should feel blessed to you know to be able to kind of to get to that stage in your life. So I would just like to play a short little music. Just trying to get this thing to work. Let's try this one here. Ujahi, and welcome back to the Wisdom of the Nile show. And we've got special guests like, say, from Manu, USA. Um, Ujahi Hatani, can you hear? You can. Good, good. It sounds a bit low. Let me see if I can. Yeah, yeah. So, could you first just introduce yourself briefly to the audience and just give an overview of who you are and what your name means, really, like, because we're all carrying these Kemetic names and people might hear these names and don't understand or know, what they mean, as opposed to what the English or the Europeans, they have names that doesn't have no meanings, and yeah. Good, good, good. Two 2003. So you was there for about good 5 years then under Master Nabadan. Hmm. So basically you're one of the privileged ones and really to get it direct from the source.
Maximized on the opportunity more than I did. But yeah, I'm grateful for what I was able to get with the time I had with him.
Yeah. And so like when before you heard about the others, how did you hear about the Health Center really to kind of to get involved with it?
Well, I first started reading the Firefly, which at the time was a free monthly newspaper that I got at one of the bookstores that I started going to when I was kind of I think around the time I was 19, 20 years old, and just searching for information that could help me in a situation where I didn't really have much guidance. And I didn't have really any faith in the system that I saw around me. So I was looking for alternatives. So I started learning about Africa from this black bookstore, some historical books and books on health and things like that I was reading. But I also started reading The Firefly there. And so Master Naba's writings were very captivating. And I was also very inspired by the writings about the pilgrimages to Merita that they were taking.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so that was around the time I think they started the annual pilgrimages, like 2001, something like this.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
so that was my introduction, and then I met Master Naba, I think, at one of our African Festival of the Arts here that we have every year, which actually we just finished that one on Monday for this year, and that when I when we were there, one of the ladies who was actually one of the first generation initiates, she was the first person I met from the Earth Center, who first started telling me about it. I think I met Master Naba in passing at this festival, and I said, because I recognized his face from the photos I would see in the magazine.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just greeted him at that time, but we didn't talk. But then when I met. I met the sister Mary Abu, and so it's funny. We just saw each other for the first time in years and years at this festival. So
Mm.
that was my introduction.
And so, how long after meeting him, like, did you join up? Was it immediately, or it took you time before you?
No, no, it took some time because I think I had been reading The Firefly for over a year at the time. I guess I wasn't at the mind to really value the price of the classes, or you know what I mean.
Mm.
See the I was interested, but I didn't want to pay what they were asking for the classes at the time. So uh,
Yeah, I understand.
like I said, I was 19, 20 years old, and I was
Yeah,
like, this is interesting, but you think you have all the time in the world. And
yeah,
so I took my time getting over there, and it wasn't until I met Big Bai, who was the mayor of the first generation here.
yeah.
Uh, he was the one who invited me and said, you should come out to the Earth Center. We're starting some new classes, and
Mm-hmm.
so that's when I actually came.
Mm.
But I mean, from when I started reading Firefly, that was probably between 1 and 2 years, and then I started running into this other lady, Mary Abu, and she, I think, still that was maybe a few months after I met her that I actually came.
Mm.
So it took me a while.
As they say, really, right? It wasn't no coincidence, though, really, that you met her, really, to kind of
All right.
yeah.
I mean, it was a time in my life when I was really seeking and searching, and it's like I felt myself being led to different places, and from one place I would end up kind of, meet somebody who would lead me somewhere else, and it would, just I was just kind of floating in a sense, but with the impression that it wasn't really by accident, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So when I've ended up landing at the Earth Center, that's where I kind of stuck. I mean, I took some classes. I ended up leaving for actually a couple years after the first year I was here, and then I came back. And when I came back, I really had a very renewed appreciation, and really got a lot more serious about it.
Mm. But I mean, your sense of consciousness, though, was quite, for your age at that time. Most men really probably wouldn't be thinking of kind of say, entertaining something as well. This information it goes above some people's head really, and they just take it. Oh, this is too serious. This is too deep. I want to live a bit before, you know. So, there was something there special within you then, really, that was seeking from that early age.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to credit the ancestors because I don't know why something was in me that didn't seem to be in anyone else that I knew at the time.
Mm.
And I would share things with people that different things I'd be learning about, and they'd be like, "Okay, but what about this video game or this
Yeah,
this blunt that we want to smoke or whatever?"
yeah,
So
yeah.
or this basketball game or football game, all of that stuff. People just want to have fun and whatever. And I was like, for me, it was like life has to be about something.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to search for what that is because I didn't want to spend my whole life just working like that's really my purpose, like working somebody's job
Mm-hmm.
and then be lucky to have my weekends and be able to, have fun like that. I didn't really see that as much of a life.
Mm. So like in terms of like say joining up with the Earth Center now, really, I mean, when you started off, did you find it challenging, really, kind of say going through the initiation stage, or what was your greatest kind of challenge, really, you know
Well, on the surface of it, it was easy for me. Like as far as the, you know, retaining information, learning the language, doing the different exercises and stuff. None of that really came as a challenge. The challenge was more on the application of the principles of the initiation. That you know, the discipline, the humility, the patience and tolerance, application of the commandments. That's the part that really was the challenge that I guess, when I first came, I didn't really grasp. And so when I came back, um, I had more of an appreciation for what, what that meant really, as far as growth. You know what I mean? Like growth inside myself, not just growth in, or not just the, I guess, acquisition of information, but actual growth.
I mean, for me, when I came into initiation, I didn't expect, I just thought for myself, like, oh, I heard about the Dogons, and I thought, what I heard, it interested me, and I thought, okay, I thought it'd be just like, say, coming to school, you just learn something and you go
Right.
away. And no realization of the commitment, really, right, and what was actually involved when we say initiation, really. It is very challenging, really, because it does transform your life, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, and in order to transform your life, you have to let yourself be transformed because, a lot of people come and they want to hold on to the way that they're used to doing things. And, I'd say that that was more so my approach at first, that, I'm just taking it as information. It's like, I was doing what Master and I said not to do, which is that you don't go trying to grade what you're learning, trying to put judging what you're learning to say what you want to value versus what you don't want to value, and you know taking bits and pieces because it all fits together. Like when you really like kind of let go of the uh, I guess preconceived notions that you have, and allow yourself to be able to drop whatever it is that you think you believe or you're standing on, at a moment's notice. It's like, oh no, I learned better. Okay, let me just make this change. And then when when you can do that, then you'll see how everything fits in place like a puzzle, and every aspect of the initiation supports every other aspect. Like, and you can't just like take one of them out or two of them out and say, I like this and this, but I don't like this, and then think that you have something, because it won't be complete, and it won't function properly for you.
So, like, say, I mean, you can see the difference when well, not, I don't want to use the word compare, but when you see your friends of who you were with at that time to where you are now, you can actually see and appreciate the knowledge that's been given to you now, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the people I was hanging out with, and I said, the people I was hanging out with at the time, I'd be trying to share information with them. I'd be like, hey, this is cool, I'd try to share different books or, things I was reading. And there was never really any interest. And now, fast forward, and it's almost been 20 years, a lot of them are still doing the same stuff that we were doing at that time, which is, getting high, drinking, working, little odd jobs, and, because I wasn't really hanging out. I didn't go to college, so I wasn't hanging out with a group of professionals or a group of, I wasn't into gangs either. So we were kind of like the group of people in between that was just like, maybe work at restaurants, wait tables, things like that, And some people kind of, have pursued more of a professional field, but a lot of them are still, living the same type of lifestyle, which is just enough to get by, to, like we're in Cheers, like, there's a show that's called Cheers. We used to have in the 80s and 90s here, where they would just get off work and hang out at the bar. And it's like, the theme song is like, sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. and you just, I said the reference without realizing you guys are in UK. You probably don't know what I'm talking about, but it's just like, you just doing what you need to do so you can live the next day and hang out with your buddies, do your basically, meaningless stuff. And it's like you come and go and your whole life like finishes and what's it for?
Mm. That is the realization though, isn't it? When you kind of recognize like there is a greater purpose for you being here, as you said, like people just going through life really, right, not knowing who they are, what their direction, what their purpose is.
Right, or like that you come to life to do something, like there's something
Mhm.
for you to do, and then your whole life ends up being hijacked by these ideologies of what the liberal values, or you understand, Liber
Yeah,
values, freedom,
yeah.
uh
You only live once, really. It doesn't matter.
fun, yeah, have fun,
Mhm.
live life to the fullest, those type of philosophies, and
Mm.
your life gets hijacked by that, and then it's like, what were you here for?
Mm.
Well, that question is like we don't even end up asking that question, because like before you know it, people are asking you, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Mhm.
And you bypass the whole question, like, what is your destiny? What are you here to fulfill?
Mhm.
And then just say, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, how are you going to serve this system
Mhm.
when you grow up is the question, before you even wonder about your own destiny in the whole cosmic dialogue of existence.
Mhm. Yeah. And I mean, being here now really is hard for them to hijack your mind now, isn't it? Because I mean, we see people at the end, especially like in the workplace, where it's a dog eat dog situation, and everybody's trying to um, get to the top, like this crab in a barrel situation there. A life of destruction and self-destruction, and it's meaningless really, because knowing that there's something greater. There's, as they say, when you try when I make that transition, none of those things you can carry with you. But when you look at life and what they put there in front of you to get it, people are killing each other and all these different things, really, right? To get what? So,
Right, right. I was just on Facebook, and somebody had made a post like, anything that you work your whole life to achieve can be taken from you in a split second.
mm,
And I replied to him. Um, I said, not everything. Focus on the wealth you won't lose, because the history that you write, the things that you do, the qualities that you achieve, the abilities that you cultivate within yourself, all those things can transcend your death.
mm-hmm,
So regardless of what somebody does, they can't take those accomplishments away from you.
mm-hmm,
And so, once you have something that you're investing in, that's going to even last beyond the time that you pass away, why will you sacrifice that for anything?
yeah,
Because the life ends. You never know when it's going to happen, but you know it's going to happen sometime. Like, why will you sacrifice anything that's that temporary?
mm-hmm,
Sacrifice whatever is not temporary for what's temporary. Why will you sacrifice that? So, that's very it's very grounding, and really that's the reason why these new age philosophies have been imposed on people, because a person who is looking at the bigger picture like that is hard to control.
mm-hmm,
You can't just get someone to do whatever you want them to do when they have a bigger picture that they're looking at, and you're not part of it.
mm-hmm,
You just being a slave master, or a corporate executive, or whatever it is. You don't have influence over those people, and if you have masses of groups of people who aren't influenced by your corporate interests or your capitalist interests, how can you capitalize? You can't.
yeah, yeah,
So you need to introduce something that people are going to that people are going to buy into, to say, you know what, I would rather invest myself in having these comforts, having these pleasures, having this happiness or this fun or whatever it is that the system is promising,
mm-hmm,
with all its technology and gadgets and entertainment and all this. And then, so fast forward to today, you have generations built on this philosophy,
mm-hmm,
and I know today we were supposed to be talking about like ageism.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the way I look at it is a little bit it's a little bit complex because like if you're a person who is living in this type of philosophy of how much fun you can have, well, an old person is going to drag you down because that's someone you're going to have to take care of. You're going to have to invest your resources in and all of this when, you're supposed to be having fun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and not only that, uh, something Makru said in one of his lectures on education, he was saying that you you send your child to school and basically let someone else do the job of the parent for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and he was saying, what is it that you even have that you are offering your child? You don't have anything to offer them.
Yeah.
And then, we end up with, we end up as young adults uh, finding out that everything our parents have kind of like led us into is useless to us.
But as I said, because of the environment that we grow up into, really, right? As I say,
I mean,
you're
it's
only what you're exposed
everybody
to.
is kind of everyone's kind of a victim to it.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's not like anyone can be blamed for it, but it's like, you know, in a traditional society, you'll have parents, grandparents, children, everyone working together in a family unit,
yeah,
and um, and then you end up living together. You want the family to be cohesive, right? And
mm-hmm.
so when the man has to go out and work on the farm, maybe the grandparents who aren't able to work on the farm, but they can stay home and watch the kids.
Yeah,
But here you have, the grandparents still have to go to work. Who's going to watch the kids? They have to go to school. They have to go someplace else, and continue to be educated by the system. Or, a lot of times the whole goal is, oh, you raise your kids till they get 18, and then you breathe the sigh of relief when they go off to college, and it's one less, headache for you.
but
You
that
know.
brainwashing continues though, because I mean, a couple weeks ago, the program that I did was difference between what we see as education as opposed to knowledge, and when we say
Hmm.
this is comedic knowledge. And then, like, I actually I thought I'd start off by looking what their dictionary says what education is. And
Hmm.
it was about indoctrination, cultivation, kind of drilling, conditioning, So we put our children through this, what we call education system, to be conditioned, right, to behave, to, as we say, to serve society. And
Right.
so there is that distinction between coming through initiation, going through this process. You're getting knowledge, you're getting something that can sustain you and help you through life. Whereas that ageism concept there is, we use you, when we finish with you, then we discard you.
Hmm.
So you walk away with nothing. And
Because you're just a human resource. Do
mm,
you guys have that in UK? Human resources.
could you repeat that again, please?
Human resources. Do you have that in UK?
Explain a little bit.
Okay, all right, yeah. So in the US, every corporation has a department called human resources,
Mm-hmm.
which that's the department that really, you might have a finance department, you might have a production department, you have a human resources department, which is the group, part of the agency or organization, corporation, or whatever that deals with the employees.
Mm-hmm.
But they call it human resources, which just tells you that you as a human are just seen as a resource.
Yeah, 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 definitely. That's
Or I've even seen, I think in the school system, they call it human capital, like the human capital department. which
Yeah,
is to say, like your currency to be, bought and sold and traded.
yeah. Oh my God, that's what we are in it. When we kind of where they say at 6 weeks you're forced to register your child with the state, and then from that age, really, right, they then control and they own your child, basically. And
Yeah, they look at you, I mean, why else will they don't even let you out of the hospital unless you have your car seat so that you can take them safely into your car.
hmm
I mean, you can appreciate the idea of wanting the children to be safe or whatever, but it's like they more or less take ownership and
hmm
say, you have to do this, or certain things that you have to do for the baby. They say it's mandated by law to vaccinate your children and
hmm
things like that. Like, why, because they consider that they own the children. That's the only reason they can say that, because you're considered to be, like, here in the United States, we have what's called eminent domain, which is anything that's inside the borders of the country belongs to the country.
to the
And that
state, yeah, yeah,
includes, everything,
yeah.
people too.
But there is a law from here. I understand that before you get to the age of 7, you have a right to claim back your sovereignty, and thereafter, then by default, they own you. But at
Yeah,
7,
there's sovereignty law here too, which is, we don't really, a lot of people don't really know how it works or really understand it. But the thing is that the society here, it's not about law. The laws are what they create in order to preserve some sense of order in whatever they consider belongs to them.
hmm
But you see that they don't always follow it. Or people, like, if it's the police or whatever, they don't have to follow the law. They can break every law that they will pull you over for. Even while they're pulling you over for doing something, they'll break the same law that you just broke
yeah,
for them to pull you over.
yeah,
So, like, so that the law isn't important. What's important is, who's the biggest gangster out here. That's really the only thing that matters. If you're the biggest gangster out here, you can take control of things.
and this is what they do, you know. Um, yeah, and that's why personally, I'm grateful, really, right, for finding the Earth Center there, really, right, and just trying to reorientate my mind, actually, to see the system for what it is. Otherwise,
Hmm.
we're just one of those sheep that's led to be slaughtered, really, thinking that you got a
Yeah, and
direction. Yeah.
and it's not only just that you can see with the system for what it is, because a lot of people can see that. A lot of people see the conspiracies that's being played on us.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like nowadays everyone knows what's going on, but they don't see any alternative to it. And the Earth Center is what gives us an alternative to where we even can be living here. It's like, okay, you say this is the law, no problem, we'll follow it, because
Yeah.
we know our life is bigger than whether or not we stop at a stoplight, or, whether or not we, do what the system is saying. Okay, we'll go along with this or that because we know what we're doing. We know
Yeah.
what we're investing our lives in, and it's something that you can't put us in trouble for that.
Yeah. Exactly. I totally agree. Yeah.
Luckily, not anymore anyway. They used to kill people for doing what we're doing, actually, but but luckily, somehow, times have changed and we're able to do what we're doing openly, and I'm very grateful for that.
Well, in a sense, really, I mean, it's not like they're not monitoring and watching what's going on. You know that really at the moment, because of the size of the organization and everything, really, they probably might not see you as a threat at the moment, but
Right.
we've
But
experienced,
the
right?
thing is too, times are different. Information travels a lot faster. If you have an organization that's international, and they want to do something to us, it's not something that's just going to happen quietly. Because the thing is that in order to destroy a group that they see as a threat, they need to have something to be able to pin on you.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be able to put some dirt on your name so that people can say, okay, we understand why you're taking them down. But the way that we're structured as an organization, like, there's not anything they can put on us, because we're not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
We're not terrorists. We're not hurting people. We're not spreading hate. So what are they gonna put on this that would justify something like what they, you know, what they might have done to say the Black Panthers or so on. We're not out here promoting carry guns. We're not doing anything that's going to fuel the flames of, I mean, we do healing, we do initiations, we teach people, we
Well,
spread knowledge. There ain't nothing,
well, that's
we spread
exactly it, though.
family values.
That's exactly it. You're spreading knowledge, not education, not conditioning.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and the
But I'm
threat,
saying that it wouldn't be easy for the system to just dig up something, because if they could dig up something, I'll give you an example. There was someone who had been affiliated with the Earth Center. I think he might have been in classes at some point in San Diego, and he ended up killing some police.
hmm
Uh, And then there was something he wrote in the letter that they found, it referenced back to the Earth Center and the 77 Commandments. And it became like a big like media thing, like on the news, where it's like, oh, this guy, he was brainwashed by the Earth Center, these
Oh
people,
yeah.
and this or that. And it's like, when that little thing, I mean, I can't say it's little, people got killed. It's not a little thing. But I'm saying that one incident became something where you type in the Earth Center, and that would be the first thing that came up on, or not the first thing, but one of the first things
Yeah.
that you see. So I mean, if they can find something, they're gonna take that and use it. Mostly they'll just be waiting for you to do something that's gonna, self sabotage yourself, so they don't have to look bad when they're taking you out.
Mm.
So we just have to be intelligent about how we're going about things. It's not that they don't see us yet, because I know we've been around long enough. They see us for sure.
Oh yeah, they do. Definitely they do. They do. Yeah. But as Prof. Neb Naba said himself, really right. He's kind of raising super intelligent human beings.
Hmm.
So they
Yeah, and we have to definitely be intelligent to navigate this world.
yeah.
Look, we're dealing with, like, two calendars all the time. There's a lot of things that we have to navigate, because we're dealing with two kind of sets of values that's totally different.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's going to require intelligence.
hmm I didn't. I'm sorry about that, but I didn't wish you a happy divine holiday today.
Oh yeah, happy
Yeah,
divine holy day, brother. I mean,
yeah, yeah. So, is there? They keeping Zemzem today for that at your temple? How was that?
yeah. Well, we'll have it this evening.
Mm, and probably you'd like to
You,
brief the listeners even as to what divine holiday actually means to us really in our Kemetic calendar.
oh, if we want to talk about divine holy day, we have to talk about the calendar in general.
Yeah.
That the calendar is huh.
Uh,
You have this debate going on nowadays of whether or not there's a divine, world, or
mm-hmm.
what that is. Uh, for me, I can't look at the fact that, you ever notice how they can tell us when the eclipse is going to happen, and they can tell us every day what time the sun is going to rise.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we'll give scientists credit for being really smart to figure all that out. Technically, all of that has been known for, thousands of years. All the formulas to calculate that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not something they just figured out. I mean, that was already known. But aside from that, the part that I think gets overlooked is the fact that how does the universe function in a way that's so stable that you can always predict what time the sun is going to rise, and what time, when exactly the eclipse is going to happen, when different astronomical events will happen. How can we chart all of that and chart it? Maybe for the next 100 years or the next 1,000 years, we can chart it.
Mm-hmm.
Like how it can only be that stable because there's beings that are greater than the human, our little emotional human self that are managing things.
Mm-hmm.
And those beings have put things in order to where they even have different, you know, entities or different netero, gods and goddesses who are governing certain periods of time. So, um, and all this is not, I mean, people can take the idea or the approach that this is something somebody just came up with because for the past 2,000 years, that's what leaders have been doing. They've just been coming up with stuff
Mm-hmm.
and say, this is our God, this is his name, this is what he did, this is a story. You should believe in him or we'll kill you. And
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much been the way that they introduce themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays there's so much confusion that people can just come up with a convincing story and then voila, they have followers. They can buy themselves a Bentley or, I heard this brother Polite recently bought a mountain somewhere in Central America. Like,
Wow.
you can buy your whole mountain for yourself. Uh, but this is not the way human beings always function. At some point there was a different way of doing things, which is we're just trying to investigate the existence so we can know how to function in harmony with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the way the calendar was to develop. It's based on the investigation to see what it is, who it is that's governing these aspects of time.
Mm-hmm.
So when we break it down to the level of months, each month is governed by a god or goddess. Um, then each month is broken down. We have 12 months of 30 days, and then 1 month, the last month, which is what getting ready to start. What in 2 more days is the last month of the
Yeah.
year, which is the month of Newt, is a month of 5 days, or when we have our leap year every 4 years, that 366 day of the year is added to the end of this last month of Newt, which is will be the sixth day, which we call World Renewal Day. But if you look at the months of the calendar, um, each month, the main months of 30 days, each one of those is broken down into three, what we call meterus, or, I guess you could roughly just call it a week, but it's 10 days, a
Mm-hmm.
10-day week. So each one of those, um, we have a day, the fifth day, which is to honor our ancestors, make offerings to our ancestors, because somehow that's just the day that the ancestors know to come looking for, checking on their descendants and seeing what their descendants have left for them. And every ninth day is the same as for the divine world. It's the time that's most favorable to make offerings to the divine world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's, the schedule that we function on. And again, this is, it's something that often I think gets confused for religious, but we call it astronomical. But the why we call it astronomical is because we're not just looking at all the stars and the cosmos. We're not just looking at the physical aspect of it, but we're also looking at the physical aspect, like what is behind all of these celestial bodies and their movement.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that kind of explains. I mean, I that so the on the divine holy day we do offerings. We can offer money. We can offer frankincense or myrrh to the divine world,
Mm-hmm.
which we burn on charcoal. So that's basically how we honor the divine. So when we talk about Zimzim, divine holy day Zimzim, which he mentioned, Zimzim is basically breaks down to mean prayer,
Mm-hmm.
which is when we get together we do there's different it's a ceremony that we do, and we do it actually 8 out of every 10 days of the Meheru, or week, which um, we do movements and chants that connect us with the earth energies, with the divine world. We have prayers that we do to our ancestors. So it's a it has all that involved in that ceremony. So every divine holy day, we get together as a group and do that together to kind of strengthen all of the activities. By the size of the group, it strengthens the activities that we're doing, the wishes that we're making. We can all put our energies behind them and so on.
Hmm. Yeah, so because I mean, it's important really because as you say, like in a couple of days' time, really, right? It will be 5 days straight, really, like of Zemzem, really, more or less, kind of giving um,
Hmm.
praises, really, right, to the goddess Nut for those 5 days, really.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, have you been on pilgrimage yet? Really, just
You said, have I been on pilgrimage?
yeah, have you been on pilgrimage yet? Yeah.
Yeah, I've been on 3 pilgrimages.
And how was it? Because I personally I haven't been yet really, right? So I haven't I've got no experience really like of I've heard a lot about it, but I haven't been yet. You know,
You want to know about pilgrimage?
yeah.
You know, man, you want me to talk for the next 1 or 2 hours now, you know.
Yeah.
But Merita is is different. It functions differently, and so if you think initiation has been a paradigm shift, it's that's where everything kind of well, it's where you see everything being applied in the culture, in the what I guess you could call the mainstream of the traditional culture. Like,
Mm,
and I don't know where can I even start talking about this. The ceremonies we participate in, the places that we go, the people that we meet,
mm-hmm.
um, it all comes to reinforce what we're learning, but also reinforce, the culture just reinforces itself. At the same time, you'll see where, in especially the urban areas, but sometimes the rural areas, there's a lot of modern values and a lot of modern religions, a lot of modern technology is still also being, what's the word? I guess imposed and
Mm-hmm.
spread amongst the people there. So it's an interesting thing to watch because you see those of us over here in the West, we're seeing that this system doesn't really have anything to offer us because we've been under the system for long enough to see. And everyone here is like looking for alternatives. It's like, what? How do we do things differently?
Mm-hmm.
And so you see people kind of like running away from the modern values and the modern things. And over there, it's like you see a lot of people who's running towards the modern stuff.
It's where
And because they I don't think they have maybe the degree of exposure to colonialism and modernization to see how dangerous and destructive it is. I mean, I'm sure there's some people who do, but I don't. I think by and large, you still have people who's thinking like, this white man's here to save the day.
I mean, with technology, that's made it accessible for them to see certain things, and what they put out there about the West, they make it look like it's somewhere attractive. I mean, when you look at people crossing the desert and kind of being dying just to get to what they don't know, and you think, do they
Right.
really appreciate really like that? Really, what they have there, they just, for those who are looking towards the West here as the way out, they've just got
And
no
that's
real.
like a human. It's like you feel like to you never feel like you're satisfied. You always feel like there's got to be something better somewhere else, no matter how good you may have it.
Mm,
But that's why we're just very fortunate because there's a lot of places in Africa you can go where the traditions have been more or less destroyed the same way you see, in other parts of the world outside of Merita. Merita meaning Africa for those who may not know. But Merita, in the places where we go, we have places where the traditions are still very strongly preserved. And so, like the traditional royalty, for example, like in Burkina Faso, there's different kings we visit where, like, they have enough authority to where even if the president of Burkina Faso wants to come and do something where they're at, they need to come get permission from the king, or say at least send a representative to get permission to say, hey, I'm here to do this and this, and get the blessings of the king before proceeding. So it's not everywhere that you can say that the traditional kings still have that authority. A lot of places it's not the case. It's been destroyed. So, or the traditional spirituality that we have access to, the temples that we have access to, uh, because when you look at global statistics and you see some of these countries and say uh, what their religious practices, and then it'll be like some place will be like 99% Muslim, 1% traditionalist, or it might be like 85% Christian, 14% Muslim, and then
Yeah.
1% traditionalist, or something like that. And it's like, you know, I don't really believe in statistics like that, but numbers like that show. And when you go there, the reality of what you'll see, there's a lot of places you go where you see mosques all over the place, you see churches all over the place, especially in Ghana.
Yeah.
Everything is Jesus. They even have their gas station there. It's called Glory Oil. It's very,
Yeah.
very Christianized over there. So it's not always that easy to get access to the real authentic traditions. Even if you go to Merita, if you go by yourself, if you don't have connections, you're not necessarily going to
Yeah.
get exposed to the traditions, or you might get exposed to some of the people who have turned their traditional, abilities and knowledge into how can I make a profit off of these, Westerners who are coming, who they
Yeah.
kind of see as,
Yeah. Definitely.
just the face of the invader.
Mm.
So, you know, by coming as initiates, as people who's coming to learn, as people who's coming to gain knowledge and obtain the blessings there, not like, Peace Corps or anything like that, but actually uh, coming as humbly to learn. Like, we the ones who are missing, that we're missing something and we need them to help us get it back. And by coming with that understanding, with that mind frame, we're able to get access to a lot of things that most people aren't going to have access to.
Because I've been to Ghana, the Gambia, and the Ivory Coast. They're really right, and I've seen exactly what you've said there. The amount of, it's like every other building is a church, really, isn't it? And
Hmm. If
that.
it's not a church, even like a business will have, and I was taking pictures there. I mean, on one side it was hilarious, but on the other side it was like, sad. Like, this is, everyone's putting their faith in Jesus, and it's like, this dude hasn't showed up yet. They keep saying he's coming back, and he's not back. We haven't seen him.
Yeah, but there's yeah, but
Nobody's seen this guy.
yeah, but there was
You
that
know,
case in it where is it Kenya the other day where they had a
yeah. Matter of fact, my brother is from Kenya right now. He was, I think his wife and kids were there at the time. Hey, Mina, can you tell them about like what happened with Kenya? I'm gonna put this brother on the phone. Hold on, because he's from he's from Kenya, just as to his
yeah.
convenience. Sorry.
Oh, Jai, how are you doing, my brother?
Mujaiv, I'm fine, thank you. How are you yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing fantastic.
Good, good. Yeah, could you tell the listeners your name and just a little bit about yourself briefly, and just go into what you have to say. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, my name is Maina. I'm originally from Kenya, and I'm here right now at the Art Center in Chicago, helping out Mr. Kasabes Makma here with some of the daily duties.
So you're
Yeah.
you're not an initiate yet.
No, 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 I'm not yet. I'm hoping to be.
Well, don't leave
Yeah.
it too long though, because you've heard what he was saying there in it, and the vast of knowledge that he has there, kind of waiting to share with you.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. Yeah, the amount of knowledge and especially the depth of it is very, very, very informative. But then also the application side of it is where the magic starts working.
So, like in Kenya,
Yeah.
do they go through? Do you go through initiation of any type over there?
Well, they used to go through the real initiation back in the day during my grandfather's generation, and also during my father's generation. But then now it's been kind of washed out. So all that is involved is just the physical act of where they perform the circumcision for the men, and then from there they just give you a bit of pointers here and there. But then it's not like during my father's generation where they actually went out into the bush and spent months in there getting all the deep knowledge. But then also the colonials also did quite a number, especially aided with the churches and also with the, basically the Abrahamic religions. Yeah. So the initiation
Could you
is,
speak up a little bit because your voice sounds a bit low at the moment? Yeah.
sorry?
Yeah, no, I was just asking if you could speak up a little because your voice kind of dropped a little bit there. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
sure.
that's a lot
And
better.
is this
Yeah.
good?
Yeah, that's good now. Yeah.
Okay, I just move the mic closer to my mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So even like it's really like the churches in my case, they've really done a really thorough job with regards to getting people disjointed from their original culture. And as you know it, the colonials came together with the church, so they were kind of like having a good symbiotic relationship whereby the administrators took care of dealing with the citizens using the canon, and then the church came piggybacking on the colonials doing their thing to the minds of the people that they found there, and especially with regards to the ancestors. Like I can tell you, for me being a Gikoyo, they actually did the translation. Ancestor, they actually equated it to the devil. So it became an insult to say somebody has Goma, which means ancestors. So Goma, they replaced the word ancestor with devil. So that is, one of the insidious ways of which they helped disjoint and also disengage people from their real identities. Yeah, so we have quite the identity crisis there in Kenya, whereby people have this emulation of their colonial master and trying to emulate, the way of dress, the way of thought, the way of working, and also with that comes the exploitation and corruption that comes along with it. Yeah.
And this all starts from in the school from an early age as well, does it?
Sorry?
Does this start from in the schools from an early age?
Not only that, but going to school, we even had a subject called CRE, which was Christian Religious Education,
Oh yeah, we had that.
which was part of the curriculum of the school, and it was examinable. Yeah, so that was part of like your O levels.
Yeah.
That was one of the subjects that you had to study and was taught in the class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that I think that is standard and compulsory, not like in all of these Western European schooling really. This religious education really, right? Because that is a part of the condition and the dumbing down, isn't it? For you to accept, they wipe out and push whatever you stood for, that you don't even want to recognize it no more, because as I was saying to Atini Kazabek, they're really like the Jesus reappearing, and the people was embracing it. And in 2019, you'd think to yourself, well, hold on, we're supposed to be a little bit more conscious and aware, really. So what's taking place there? How were they able to kind of to get away with that? And
man, I tell you what, it is quite something else. Because from the day you're born, it is all around you. And especially with the women and the mothers, they are the ones who are really deeply into it. I remember even having like a framed, inscription inside our house saying, Christ is the head of this household.
yeah,
And also there is, photos of you know, Jesus, the way he looks in, you know, with his blonde hair, blue eyes, straight from the salon, nice and permed and everything with the beards. Yeah, so we had that also in our house.
Yeah.
And then also further reinforcement comes with, you know, praying to Jesus and, you know, to the colonial God about, you know, blessing the food and all
Yeah.
that. So you do that in the morning, you do that in the evening. And then come Sunday, you know, that whole day was dedicated towards, you know, going to church and praising God and all that. But the interesting thing was the irony of it, eh?
Yeah, definitely.
was that you could do that on Sunday, but on Saturday you were partying like there is no tomorrow. And you know, you have that where you do you do all your vice from Monday to Saturday.
Yeah.
But then, you know, that irony was, I caught that. I was like, you know, we are saying this, that, and the other. We are taught this, that, and the other in school. But what I am actually seeing was totally different. So what happened was, I mean, the church services were very like British style, you know, back in the day, you know, when I was growing up in the 80s. You know, church, man, for me was quite, it was hard to sit. You know, you sit down, the pastor says his thing, stand up, you sing some verses, you know, sit down, stand up. And, you know, for somebody who is in primary school, you know, not being able to keep still, that is, that is very difficult. And then they would say, okay, kids, stand up and go to, what's that thing called? Sunday school.
Sunday school, yeah.
So, yeah, so I could get like 5 bob from my mom, and then I would go out, and then I would be like, now these 5 bob, I'm seeing this amazing church structure, you know. I was saying, you know, they have cash, but right there I can see the ice cream man, you know, selling his ice cream. Then I'm like, so how is this 5 bob going to help the church? When the ice cream man is there, who it can help him even more, and then he can help me with ice cream. Yeah, so I could go there and hang out with the ice cream man, you know, give him the 5 bob. He would give me some ice cream. I would enjoy and partake in it. Yeah, and that was the highlight of the church service.
Well, it's funny you say that. A few weeks back, there was a little girl. I think she was about 9 year old. And she saved up all the money that was given to her, like for collection.
Yeah.
And she did this video clip really to say, well, this is, you know, she sees the pastor driving around in his big car, and the pastor's wife has got this, and you know they've got everything that the poor people don't have, you know. And so she took the initiative to say, well, if he's got everything already, why should I give him the small amount that I have? And she saved it
You know,
up in her bag, and you know, when she opened it, she said, "This is what I saved." And you know, you thought, wow, this is a 9 year old really kind of that can recognize and see through what's happening out there. So how crazy is it that we are supposed to be, as adults, supposed to be more aware that we're still caught out by, you know, these false values that they imposed on us, you know?
yeah, you see, even like the saddest thing is that, you know, back in the day, they were better at hiding the money. So you never saw, you know, the church pastor, you know, driving around in expensive vehicles. But then now it's totally exploded. You know, as they say, you know, corruption always goes downhill. So the situation gets worse and worse as time goes on. So you find now it's much more difficult to hide. But with that said, the sad thing also is that um, because we are limited in our thinking, because we have been educated by the colonialists, we don't even seem to have any other option. So you find people, what has happened is that the option that they have is, you know, to declare that they won't say that they're atheists. They just, you know, stop going to church and, you know, use the Sunday morning to, you know, pass time with a hangover or sleep in or, you know, watch some TV or something. Yeah, so it's just the lack of an option which they do not have. And yeah, that's where the Art Center comes in.
So an organization like the Earth Center in Kenya, there, how do you think that would be welcomed there?
Oh, actually, there is none at the moment, but with the amount of distractions that people have, especially in Kenya, whereby, say, for example, just to commute short distances takes a long time because of the traffic. So you find people leaving for work, at 5:30 in the morning so that they can make it there, in good time. And then by the time they come out of work, there's, traffic. By the time they get home, it's, 6:30 in the evening. They're tired. They want to, just have their food and go to sleep or maybe relax a little bit. So in fact, with the opening of an art center, especially like in the main centers, would be quite a challenge because of limitations of time, but maybe towards the outside of the towns. But then also you have to know that the colonial influence there is very heavy. It's very heavy. So probably the light would have to come from this end going that way, which is, interestingly quite sad, because for me, having spent time, having grown up, having been born there, having been schooled there, I had to come and find, fill in the gaps of my identity, here in Chicago, than than back there in Kenya. And opening one up there would be, like my nephew is, he's really into it back there and he knows what's up. And I passed on some material to him to kind of pass on. And he said, I passed it on to some guys who have like a Afrocentric library. And, he gave them one video and no, like one little podcast that they can listen to on MP3 players. And, I asked him, hey, how did it go? He told me, hey, man, those things, the information seemed to be a bit too heavy for them. Yeah. So I told him, man, you're going to be the guy now to explain it to them nice and easy in a language that is simple enough to understand for the first go around. Yeah.
So the domination over there, what's the dominant religion? Is it the Muslim or the Christian values?
Okay, I would say about 70% of the people who follow the Abrahamic religion followed Christianity. And then the other 30% would be Muslim. But then all in the entire country, where the colonials had the most influence is mainly along where the rail line passed. That would be along the main Mombasa to Nairobi to Kisumu. So around that area is where you'd find the higher concentration of more or less Christians. But then towards the coast, you'd have more of the Muslims, and also towards, the border of Somalia. But then if we go towards the northwestern part of the country is where you'll find the more purer parts of traditional society, which would be mainly among the Turkana, maybe amongst the Pokot. But then they have their own challenges there with regards to trying to, survive in a world where, evil is all around them. And then there is where you'd find, I would say, within the society where they are following more or less the more traditional aspects of life. But then when you head towards the city, that's where the where the highly colonized normally operate from. And then the sad thing is they pick up a lot of values from them. Because I remember one time there was when we allegedly got independence in 1963. So you'd find the people who were actually the collaborators with the colonial government. Those are the ones who actually got promotions into government jobs. They're the ones who are sent to England to go and study how to become administrators.
Yeah.
So they just rolled in. And then also the concentration camps that they had there for throwing people in who are like political dissidents and also the Mau Mau freedom fighters. Those concentration camps just rolled out and became the current prisons that we have. Like along the coast with the Shimo La Tewa, with the Kengongo prison in Nyeri. So those ones just really transferred out and became, those are the ones that just became the current prisons. And then even next to Kengongo is the Nyeri Golf Club. There is where they had mobile gallows where they could go and hang. I think they hanged over 1,000 freedom fighters as they were entertaining the colonial golfers who were there watching the entire spectacle as an entertainment event. And the golf club is still there. People still play golf there, but are very unaware of this history because the syllabuses for the schools were all written by the colonizer. So they're the ones who made sure we learned, England is best, Queen is number one, that sort of thing. Oh, yeah. And that continues until this day. So in fact, the problems that are there right now are predominantly caused by, lacking the identity and trying to fit, our Merita style identity, trying to fit it into a more Eurocentric identity, which currently doesn't work at all. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a worldwide thing, really, isn't it? Wherever we go in our country, yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It really is, and it's very sad also.
Yeah. I remember going to Ghana, really, like, and is I remember I was staying in this hotel, and one of the workers in there, kind of my friend and I, we was there, and they were there, and one day they just sat there, just watching us, and I'm thinking, why are you watching me, that man? Oh, every day you've been here, you're spending money. And I'm saying, yeah, but don't look at what we're spending. We didn't just pick up the money and come here. We had to save a long time, really. And, when you get the Europeans coming down there and they exchange the pound, and it's a lot, when they exchange it into your local currency, really, right? So it will make them appear that here is somewhere, like, that they should be gravitating towards, yeah, and want to give up on what they've actually got there. Really, it's kind of yeah, it's quite sad, really, when you see. I mean, these people, they've had years, really, of perfecting that style, really, like, of changing our minds, the way that we look up to them, really, isn't it? Kind of, I don't know, it's just. Sorry.
Oh yeah, it's actually quite sad that that's the way it happens. Yeah. Yeah, because even I was just talking with Casabes here the other day, regarding we had Jesus in Kenya.
Yeah, that's what yeah. I mean, that was a joke, really, kind of that people would still believe. I mean, they've been waiting for thousands of years, really, right? So I suppose, when this little kind of prank, because it was like a prank, really, right? But it was a money-making thing as well, I take it, because had you been allowed to stay there longer, the people would have probably given over everything that they have.
That's the thing, because the first time that I saw the video, a friend of mine sent it to me via WhatsApp. I replied immediately, and I told the guy, give this guy until December and he'll be a multi-millionaire many times over.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But then it seems like, because I was actually didn't expect him to be deported that quickly. Well, I mean, they deported Jesus that quickly, because they really, because what the fellows there did, they brought the guy in, and he was taking payments to reserve, a space for people in heaven. So there was that lineup, paying money to him, and they did so well that they had to move him to another location, to go doing his collections and saving people space in heaven.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, but then even the other thing is, like, even once he was deported, I was saying, yeah, but there's no mention of, the people getting any refunds. So that's the sad thing.
But were the ministers, were they in prison or something?
Sorry?
The ministers, really, who brought him over there, were they in prison, or?
Highly unlikely, because there's that colonial mentality. Guys who have been mentally colonized, they still have the Jesus thing going in them. So it's highly unlikely those church ministers and pastors or whatever would have spent quite some time in the cooler. So for them, it might have been maybe just a day or so, just like, hey, who's this dude? Hey, why did you bring him over? But then it's good also. There's some hope, because the authorities worked out and did the action fairly quickly to get him out of the country as soon as possible.
Definitely, yeah, because I mean,
Oh yeah.
when I saw that, really, I was thinking, wow, you know, like in these times when information and everything is there right at your fingertip, really, right, and how you know how gullible we are, really.
Oh
It's,
yeah. And here's the funny thing. It's only because of social media. Actually, this is not the first time that white Jesus has checked in. He's been there before,
I
but
think,
this time there was no social media.
okay, okay, okay.
Yeah. So there was a time I saw the dude in the newspaper. This is when I was still back there, a few years ago, and then I was like, oh, the dude's back, eh?
Mm,
So, and that's the only time that he made it in the newspaper. So yeah, the scams are still on, and a lot of people give a lot of money to these religious institutions that actually do nothing for them but provide an emotional release
mm-hmm.
and some emotional kickback, saying, okay, now all your misgivings and misbehaviors and patterns of sin are forgiven. You're clean now. Go forth and sin again, and we'll see you next Sunday, and you'll be good to go for another session of forgiveness.
You buy your way out of it. The more you give, is the closer you get to Jesus or to God, isn't it?
Oh man, they even had another one. They used to say, oh, if you give once, you will be rewarded 10 times more. So the more you give, you get
Yeah,
10 times back. So people are like, really?
yeah.
Oh man, sell the goat, sell the cow, sell the chickens. Blessings are on their way. And then when the blessings don't come, you're told, oh, you're
You gotta
not
be
praying
patient.
hard enough. Be patient, pray hard enough, and the blessings will come. Like even in my village area in Nyeri, what happened? They started a thing called cess duty, whereby like a church could assign each family a certain amount of money that they should be bringing into the church every week.
Okay.
So, I mean, back then in the village now, the men said, how are you charging us? And, you can see how we are struggling. You guys are the ones who should be helping us. So now people don't go to the church, especially in the rural area. So you find it's mainly the elderly, the women, and the younger children. The men, you know, I think the way we are built, um, and also, maybe 99% of the preachers being men. So it's difficult for me to sit there and then another man is telling me that he's going to, facilitate my passage to heaven when I know what the game is. But then the women, on the other hand, I think mainly because, it caters to emotions quite a bit because that's how the church operates.
Yeah, on the
So
emotions,
that
yeah.
makes them probably a bit more conducive
Gullible,
to
aren't
that
they?
kind of to that kind of message. Yeah.
And then because the women more or less are the nurturer of the children, it's easy to kind of pass on that madness to onto the children. So it's perpetuated, through the generation now, really, because of that, isn't it?
Yes, and here's the funny thing: the kids see through it because they live in the house with the parents, and they see how the parents operate, and then they can see the irony. And this is just in my case. So it got to a stage where I remember even when I was going for my church confirmations, I had partied hard that night before. I think I may have slept maybe 2 or 3 hours, and then I went into church in my suit and my tie, and my bloodshot red eyes and hangover. And I was there. I was like, yep. I need to get this thing over. There's somewhere else I have to go. But then I went mainly because of my mom. My mom and I we are super close, and I was really doing this for her so that she can say, my little guy, he did this and that and the other. But I was like, okay, let's do this. Let me be the, the good son, and let me go and do that, and I'll be good. Yeah.
So,
But then it's mainly out of my love for my mom that I did that. Yeah.
traditionally, like say, as you mentioned clothes and that kind of thing. So are people dressing more traditional now or more westernized?
Now what happened was there's the used clothes market. We call it mutumba.
Was that the second-hand kind of clothes, kind of?
Yeah. So this used clothes market
Yeah,
is the rejected clothes. The ones you have like a
yeah,
Goodwill, donate your clothes and all this.
yeah.
So those clothes all end up normally in places like Africa. So you find very cheap T-shirts going for like 20 cents or 20 pence
Yeah,
in the UK. So people find, these are cheaper. And guess what? We see people on MTV dancing, music, and everything wearing these clothes.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's put these clothes on and we should be okay. Because even I remember one time the like these athletes, they had these and also these musicians, you know, they had the Nike shoes and Adidas pants and all these big label, the Gucci's and the Vendis.
Yeah.
So we were like, this is what we should be wearing if we want to be cool. So you find in the main areas of the urban areas, that's what people normally put on.
Yeah.
Even if you go into the villages, that's predominantly what is put on. So you'll very rarely find somebody putting on, like the traditional clothing. In fact, the last generation I saw putting that on were my grandparents.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because
Especially my grandparents on my dad's side. Those are the ones who are like, 100%, traditional from day one till the day they passed on. Yeah.
But you'd think like in the villages though, they'll be more traditional there though, isn't it?
So what has survived is there are some traditional ways of doing things. Those ones, some of them are really difficult to get rid of, even though, the colonials gave it their best shot. But there has been a turnaround because people are going back, like before, because at home we all used to eat gourmet meals. And also genetically modified foods are banned in Kenya.
Okay, that's good.
So, the food there is fairly fresh, very good. So the irony is that when you're going out, that's when you eat the junk food. But then now with my generation and the children of my generation who are having kids, they are pushing them more towards, the fast foods and all these kind of things. So you find like in the main urban areas, the children are getting obese. They're not as, fit as they used to be. In fact, even there's a greeting, in Kenya, when you greet somebody, you say, how you doing? The guy says, he's fit,
Yeah.
Yeah, not anymore. They are not looking as fit as we used to be back in the day.
Yeah. So there's a lot of McDonald's and that kind of stuff over there now, then, is there?
Sorry?
There's a lot of McDonald's and those kind of big franchise companies there now.
Now, you will only find those in the big cities. I would say Mombasa, Nairobi, and probably Kisumu. But then once you head out into the rural areas where they have their towns, those ones you will not find them there. But they have fish and chip shops, due to the colonial influence.
Yeah.
But there's no fish in them. It's just chicken and chips. So you find like the people who have some bit of cash, that's what they would eat, maybe over the weekends. But mainly you find in the rural areas, the food is very pure. It's very good. So you find people who've been abroad for a while, or even the tourists who come and they're unloaded upon, such fresh food, they always have problems with their stomachs.
So you said like it's all kind of natural grown food though. So you said the government then has banned pesticide GMO crop in the country then.
Yes, it is banned, but that doesn't stop Monsanto. So they started some con game of saying that they want to test out some GMO maize and it grows quicker, it's more hardier. But the saving grace is that there are a lot of people who are really opposed to it. But then, the Monsantos, they have their guys who they've paid, their, guys with PhDs who are there trying to talk about how, good this is for the country. But people have wisened up. People have really wisened up, especially towards the food aspect. And also with the incidences of cancer beginning to rise in the main cities.
Okay.
People are beginning to pay a bit more attention because you see with these cancer treatments, they're not cheap because we don't have like
free healthcare,
public healthcare. So you find somebody works for their entire life and then spends the last 3 years battling cancer where all his savings go. And this is it's becoming more and more common. And can you imagine, man, people of my age are already having strokes, having heart problems. I remember back, when my father and my uncles were my age, they were solid, man. They never had any of these issues that we are having. Yeah.
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 I mean,
Oh yeah.
we see like you know, even mothers, especially like over here in the West here, really like where because they're going out to work, just something simple like breastfeeding really is common. There's a stigma behind that. I suppose I hear that now they're trying to encourage more mothers to kind of say breastfeed and that kind of stuff there. But the formula and you know the GMO kind of that they're growing it with, like all the pesticide hormones. We see our children over here now. Boys are developing breasts from a young age, like you know, because of the quick growing. Everything is quick growing, you know, and you are what you eat. So therefore, really, like that's what they are, you know.
Yeah, that is very true. That is very true. And then also, the sad thing in the city is that a lot of the younger generations normally look up to following the lifestyles that they see on with the rich and famous on YouTube who are
Mhm.
abroad.
Yeah.
So they are trying to push that kind of lifestyle. But
Mhm.
then also the sad thing is that also the people are even going into debt and taking loans to keep up with that lifestyle of
Yeah.
eating fast foods and things that are really not good for you, and trying to stay away from the traditional stuff which we were taught in schools that it is the work of the devil, and we should stay away from those, and we should push as much as we can to become modern. And modern is essentially a code word for being
Destruction.
Europeanized or being
Mhm.
westernized. So the more modern you are, the better you are.
Mhm.
But that message is heavily entrenched within, especially the youth.
Mhm.
But as we always say, we can always try and convince ourselves that there's hope. Just to give ourselves that emotional release of, oh, things will get better, with
Mhm.
time. But if there's no action towards making the so-called hope come alive, then really it's just going to be heading downhill and downhill from there.
That's why we need more. We need more things, you know, organizations like the Earth Center, you know, to kind of say to come back and rekindle the traditional values that we had that you know made us when we were on top, and you know, this is what we need. You know, this kind of knowledge there really back again. You know.
That is actually very, very true. Because even like when I was, talking to my late father before he passed away, we spent a lot of our time talking about how things were back before, the colonizer really got a
Mhm.
grasp of this, grasp of things back in the day. And, the most interesting thing is like when he started telling me about those things, and there were certain gaps. And then when I came across the Earth Center, those gaps were filled by the teachings within the Earth Center.
Mhm.
And I remember one time I was talking to my mom and I was telling her, hey, mom, how are you guys doing this healing business and all? She said, hey, back in the day, they used to use a thing called the boho, and, they would do the divination on the ground, on the earth. I was like,
Mhm.
oh, wow. Oh, that's really interesting. Then I came over here. I was here in Chicago. The last time I was here in May. And I had the esteemed pleasure of sitting in Ushifi class,
Yeah.
and Naba Irita Shenmira
Mhm.
was doing his teaching, and
Oh, you sat in on that
live
class.
and live and direct, man.
Yeah.
I saw they were teaching the boho right
Yeah.
there. I was speechless.
Yeah.
I was inside. I was like, wow, 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 wow. This is what my mom was telling me about. And
Yeah.
I also asked my uncle. I told him, hey, Uncle Garuya, is there anybody who does the boho? He says, those things are not there anymore. But you see,
Mm.
now I am actually even seeing it being taught. So that was a major gap. I was like,
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
it's not lost.
Yeah.
And those were the mutam divinations that happened in the Earth Center, especially with the priests in Merita.
Yeah.
And this is way on the western side, and we're talking way on the eastern side. That's what used to happen.
Mhm.
So I was like, oh, this is fantastic. So I told my nephew about it. I said, man, nothing is lost. It was just protected within the initiatic circle.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so, with an art center, with the works of the Art Center and hopefully one opening in Kenya in the not too distant future, then this can be brought back to the people. And this is just one of the very many gaps that I saw filled by the Art Center. And you see, the interesting thing about things being filled with the gaps being filled is that any validation that I needed, whether this was the real deal, is evidenced by the filling of those gaps. And so there is that provision of the continuity within the culture. And not only that, it shows at some point the culture was very similar all over the continent. So this is really good. Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was in on that class. I remember him saying that they had some guests. So you was one of the guests that actually was sitting in on that class then. Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I was right there at the background, keeping very quiet and very meek and very trying to stay out of sight, because the amount of the level of information that was being taught was heavy and hard.
Yeah, it's overwhelming, really, isn't it? Yeah, that's why we have to appreciate our attendees, really, like, those who are before us, really, right, who have this knowledge here, really, and, have to honor them to a certain way that they were able to hold on to it, really. Otherwise, it'll be
Yeah,
all
it
gone.
is. It is really amazing. It is really amazing, and also the amount of discipline and humility that the Hatinese show is really remarkable. Because if they were not operating from the 77 commandments, and it was how you might call it, like a free for all, oh, it would be a totally different situation. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, good. So, I mean, so when you went back, you had a lot to share with them, really, after kind of say coming out those classes there, really, innit?
Oh man, it's in fact even not even just from the classes, just having in your possession the calendar, the book of purification,
Yeah.
and the philosophy podium. Like any novice is good to go to start rather, and then from there, you can come in and do the initiations, and also there are so many other things that they do with the readings, with the sunt, where you get like herbs that deal with
Yeah,
certain
natural
medical
healings, yeah.
conditions.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many things that are provided, within
Yeah.
the health center, that it's
Yeah.
because even I'm actually quite surprised that not not it's not public knowledge as of right now.
Yeah.
I mean, to the general public and the general masses.
But this is the idea, like say this show that we're hosting here, really, right? It's about honoring Master Naba and his effort, really, right, in sharing with us, because personally I feel privileged, really, to to be exposed to this knowledge here, really, and the changes that
You
it's
know,
made in my life of how I now look at, there was many questions that I was asking myself, and it's coming here that just gave me those answers to those questions. So yeah, it's mind blowing for me.
oh, I tell you what, like whenever you have your show going on with the Bless Radio One, for me, the world comes to a stop. I am like listening, hanging on to every word, because there's so much interesting knowledge and wisdom being passed along that I would never ever find, even though I searched high and low within modern society.
Yeah.
And these are the questions that you and your guests normally answer. So I would say a big dua to you and your team for for hosting the show. I really appreciate it.
But we at the same time appreciate the the guests, the initiates that actually come on, really, right, and actually share their knowledge, with the people out there, really, because they are the one that actually make the show, and I'm very grateful, really, like for them taking the time out, really, right, and giving us their time, really, like yourself, so that people like yourself, um, you know, I was exposed to it through someone else giving it, putting himself forward. So For me, it's, as they say, to continue, that cycle there really, because we need to spread this knowledge out there more to change the consciousness of people, and it's the initiates that actually makes the show. It's definitely I'm just sitting here really because I've learned so much from them because I've only just graduated December gone. Yeah, so I'm just in that learning stage here, really, right? So, my ears, when, I'm forever kind of say grateful, really, like, say, for the information that they impart on me, really, yeah.
Oh, totally. I totally hear you. Now you can imagine where you are right now,
Yeah,
being an initiate and you're still learning. Now,
yeah,
me being a non-initiate,
yeah,
the amount of information I'm just learning just by sitting here in
yeah,
Chicago and reading the Firefly magazines
yeah,
and being exposed here with the Hartinis and hanging out with them and living with them.
yeah,
It's truly amazing because now I actually see what the teachings are and how they work, especially
yeah,
here in Chicago. Yeah,
mm-hmm,
because me, I just flew into the country, so I'll be here until for another couple of days or so, and then I'll fly out again.
mm-hmm,
So the location I am in Calgary, which is in Canada, is
mm-hmm,
where I have a little tiny study group that
mm-hmm,
we are looking to push forward.
mm-hmm,
And then from there, the next stage would be to have a couple of the Hartinis come out and do a couple of events.
mm-hmm.
And then when we get to the magic number of 20, 20 people who are really
Keen,
keen on doing the initiation,
yeah,
then we go forth with that, and yeah, then we have a nice, neat location out there in Calgary. One temple at a time.
yeah, yeah. No, it's yeah, this information there really is just so powerful, really. You know, it's it's changed the dynamics of just. I remember I had a friend really, and he had cancer, and he was dying, and I was
Yeah,
there while he took his last breath, and I remember kind of just watching him and thinking, who is it that actually decides when you take that last breath?
yeah,
And that was a question that stayed with me for a long time that no one seemed to be able to have answered it. And it's coming here to the Earth Center area, right? That that knowledge and that understanding, yeah, of just the answer to that question, there even make me realize that I'm in the right place. You know? Yeah.
that is very true. Because even like what happened with my father, he had a brain tumor,
Mm.
and we had to do like a bit of a fundraising to get the to raise the funds to have him operated upon to remove the tumor.
Mm-hmm.
And well, they did the test, they found it was benign, but they had to go in and take it out. And this was not actually the first time he had it done. He had the procedure done in 2012 or 2013.
Mm.
But then the first time it was, they managed to take it out, and then from there, he started living cleaner and doing the juices and doing the exercise. So actually he became quite fit. But
Mm-hmm.
then the second time that it came fairly
Aggressive,
aggressively.
yeah, yeah.
And so when they did the surgery, they took it out, but then he happened to pass away after about 3 weeks. Yeah, and my sisters and my mom were there during his final moments.
Mm-hmm.
But then even where the Earth Center came to help is that, I got a lot of support from, Kasabes and Meramsu regarding, the
Mm-hmm.
transition. So the interesting thing was that at the time of his transition, I got some amazing advice and what I needed to do to help with his transition.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the most interesting thing, because you find that reality dialogues with you in very, very interesting ways if you know how to look for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happened was when Kasabe sent me a full write-up on how to help with the transition, and also things to expect. And the most in, interesting thing he told me to expect was there might be little accidents that are unexplained here and there, and that I should not worry about them. So the first incident was like I was standing, me and Peter, who is the gentleman who lives with us back in Merita. We are standing next to a power socket in the kitchen, and I would say a blue flame that was about 2 feet in length came out of the socket. Like it came out, whoa. We were like, what is going on? I'd never seen an electrical fire ever. And that happened, and we got an electrician to come in. And then I was keen. I asked the electrician, hey, so Mr. Electrician, what do you think caused this? No, he looked, he says, actually, I do not know, but I think it might be, the wires were old, so, that's what happened. Then the second time was we were heading to the rural area, and we got hit from the rear. But it wasn't like a solid, I've been in a car in an accident before, but it was not a solid hit from a vehicle. So what happened was there was like a semi-truck, massive lorry that was maybe 100 meters behind us that lost a wheel. And where we had stopped was on a place that has bumps. So vehicles were moving at maybe 10 kilometers an hour. So it's nice and slow.
Slow, yeah.
And the wheel of this semi missed all those vehicles and came and just hit our vehicle. But it did scratch a vehicle that was slightly behind us. So boom, that was the second one. And this is after the funeral. But then I'd been instructed that I should not mention my dad's name for 3 days after he passed. But then what I should do is I should make a little food offering and a candle where he spent most of his time, which would be in the bedroom.
I have a shrine there, yeah.
Yeah, so we did that part. But then the 5 days after the funeral, we are supposed to be doing some 5 to 10 days to do the ancestral offering just to help with the transition. So I did not do that. And then also so because I did not do that, so that is, the reality of the dialogue, telling me, giving me indications that, hey,
Something
giving
has
me
to
that
be
little
done,
shake,
yeah.
telling me, hey, you need to do something here.
Yeah.
And then based on all the conversations that I had with my dad before he passed away, so the minute I got to my location, man, I started doing it like religiously, like really, really keenly and following with that. And then also on the 90th day of his passing, I came to Chicago, and the gentleman here, the Hartinis, helped me out. And that was a really, really good thing. Because even once I did, what we would call the spiritual work to help with his 90-day transition here in Chicago, I go to the airport. This is on the day we did the work. And when I got to the Chicago O'Hare airport, I checked in nice and easy, like when you're on the tunnel just before you get into the aeroplane.
Yeah.
So I get called back by the ladies who do the checking in. So, hey, Mina, come. I was like, oh man, this is it. So I ran back. So I said, hey, what's the deal? So she said, please give me your ticket, sir. So I gave her my ticket, and then she gave me, and she told me, hey, sir, you have been upgraded. I was like, oh, really? Fantastic. I have literally been in
First
aeroplanes
class.
for decades. For decades, I have flown all kinds of places. I have never been upgraded ever. Then, you can take that as a coincidence. I'm like, oh, I'm cool. Okay, thank you. I went, sat there in front, with the rich guys, and we got our deal. So when the plane landed, as I went to the carousel, you know how you wait for your luggage by the carousel. My bag was the very first one that came out of the carousel. Then I was like, oh man, there's something happening here. There's something happening here. Let me call Casabez. So I called up Casabez. Told Casabez, hey, I told Casabez, hey, Casabez, this is what went this is what happened. So Casabez told me, oh yeah, that is a way that
You've honored your ancestor, you honored your father, so there's that reciprocal
so
kind
that is
of
that is a thank you. That is a thank you that is that is at play. I was like, now I get it. It's good. So you can see, like here, this society we live in, because they see life being linear. You are born and you pass away, and that's it.
And that's it, yeah.
But the majority of the work happens when you transition. So if there was any so-called evidence that I needed that this has to be done, then there it is.
But can you imagine though, really, like for all those people out there, right, that's got no idea of this knowledge, and how many wandering spirits you have out there that's not at rest and reaches destination yet. So you're in a sense that you're fortunate to be privileged to this information is so that you could have helped your father to make that full transition. You know.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Like, I, I really, whenever I see people who do not know or have never heard of this, I really feel
Mm.
sad for them.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. Because even right now, what that has precipitated, because I have a son and a daughter.
Mm-hmm.
My son is 9 and my daughter is 7. So I have the 77 commandments nice
Mm-hmm.
and framed in their bedroom. And this is something we talk about with them. So I normally sit down with them because, the 77 commandments tell us what's right and what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I sit down with them and we go through 20 at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Thou shalt not cause suffering to human beings. And,
Mm-hmm.
I ask them, so what do you understand about that? Well, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but I want, for them to, see, I want to see how they can articulate it and how well they can understand that.
Mm-hmm.
So we sit down and we discuss, yeah, this is how it works. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we go again to the second one. And that's what we do. That takes maybe 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, just a
Mm-hmm.
minute for each.
Yeah.
And so you find that they actually know what's right and wrong. And then also, I tell them that this is what I follow and we should keep each other accountable. So if they see me breaking any one of them, they should let me know. And if
Mm-hmm.
they break, I let them know.
Yeah.
So that is, and I learned all that from also Master Naba's lecture on education.
Yeah.
Because, with education, we think it's, going through primary schools, O levels, you do your A levels, and then you
No,
go to
that's
university.
just
That's
conditioning,
what,
really. That's just
that
conditioning,
is,
really. Yeah.
yeah, that's the condition. That's
Yeah.
what we've been conditioned to think
Yeah.
education is.
Yeah.
But it really isn't. It's, knowing what is right and what is wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as we
And
said,
then I
there's a.
learned that also from your show when you
Yeah.
had Naba Irita Shenmira,
Oh
and
yeah.
he
Yeah.
explained, there is education, and then there is initiation, and then instruction. And then
Yeah.
in this society, we go straight to instruction. So we don't know what is right and wrong. We
Yeah.
haven't been initiated. So we are very easily manipulated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we know we have the system out there listening in. I don't think they were too happy when he was there speaking.
But you see, that's the thing, because this system is a law-driven system and not a values-driven system.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the amount of resources they have to put in to monitor each and every single person who is going against what they're saying. They are pulling their hair out because they could be saying, "Oh, let's monitor this dude." Then shortly, "Oh my goodness, there's another one who's come up on YouTube. What? There's a radio station somewhere else. Let's get them."
Yeah.
And they are doing that, and they are also stewing within their own corruption.
Mm-hmm.
So, the guy who's maybe being told to monitor certain stations, the poor guy is tired, he's in debt, he's broke. He's like, man, I have to sit here listening to radio. Forget it. He has his own things to do. It's really sad. And I think that's why they're pushing for certain types of computing technologies that will help automate this entire
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but then it's that, corruption rolling downhill.
Mm.
Because the more they try to monitor, the more it costs them, the more it takes out of them.
No.
And
No.
as everything goes downhill, sooner or later something's going to give.
They got that voice recognition in it where you have keywords really like that triggers off like certain kind of reaction out there really, right? So that's how they do it really, isn't it? I mean, when you look
Oh
at
yeah.
technology really, like you look at something simple like texting, and after you've had a phone and you've text a few words in, it's actually predicting really like what word or anticipating what word you're going to be writing by the first couple of letters that you put in there. So, they have technology where they don't physically have to have a human sitting there. But then when that machine kind of activates, then it flashes over to the human interaction now where he, start to monitor it on that basis there. But no, they have the technology to kind of say to monitor.
Oh
Um,
yeah, they have that,
that's what.
facial recognition. They have
Yeah.
that, voice recognition. But when they put forth that 5G and then they start irradiating their citizens, then that rolling downhill might come down even faster than they thought.
Well, I mean, my understanding of that, I've watched a few little videos and things out there, really, right? And to how I see they're going to be using that, we're going to be seeing a lot of people out there doing some crazy things out there because there's a lot of subliminal controlling and that's going to be taking place and using with that 5G technology there. Um, yeah, it's going to be very, very dangerous. You're going to see a lot of crazy things happening out there because if you're not conscious of what you're doing, you're gonna see someone probably just get up, go out there, do a crazy act, and you think, why? How did he just do that? But that, because they understand how the brain work and which part of it to kind of manipulate really. And so that 5G, I mean, there was what I saw was that they're cutting back on a lot of the trees, things like that, because the 5G is like a concentrated energy, whereas the 4G is like it's a long range thing. So it covers a long distance, but it's not that penetrative, yeah. Whereas the 5G now, they can actually focus, like a pinpoint really, like so they can target the individual really, and condition them to basically do, because there is a lot of subliminal kind of controlling taking place out there. This is how the system. I mean, nothing that's happening out there is by coincidence. Yeah, it's somewhere
Oh,
along the line it's been manipulated by someone because no person just get up and do some of these things that's happening out there nowadays. There is something behind it, you know, and it's a cause and effect. They create conditions really, right, so that they can implement and do certain things out there within society, you know. So,
oh, oh yeah, that's very true. Because even like they're saying with the transmitters and receivers for the 5G, they have to put them like every 200 meters.
yeah,
So they are saying that they have to put them on the street
yeah,
lighting poles.
it's concentrated, yeah.
Oh yeah, and a human being can only take in so much radiation. So that is definitely going to start affecting people's health. Because even if pharmaceuticals now with their side effects are doing what they're doing to people right now you can imagine when it is full bore 5G radiation. Yeah, it's going to affect them in ways that
You're getting a full
that they don't
dosage.
really they don't really seem to care though.
You're getting a full dosage, really. But don't forget,
Oh yeah.
the system really is like it's about destruction, really, isn't it? It's not about preservation. So their aim really is to destroy life, not to preserve life, really. You know,
Yes.
and
And you see, the saddest thing is that they put a triumphant face towards that destruction. Oh yeah, because now the 5G is being sold as you will have faster speeds on
yeah,
your
yeah,
internet
yeah,
and all
yeah, yeah.
this.
They would have to get it out there, definitely. And
Oh
people
yeah.
people are gonna buy into that. They will. And when you think
No.
of it, what is the rush? It's like you build a car to go 300 miles an hour, and then they put a speed limit of 20 miles an hour. Yeah, you know,
That's true.
you know,
Oh,
you
oh,
know.
yeah.
But the psychology behind it is that okay, you give him the car, you're going to be tempted to want to do the 300 miles an hour. So it's about making money, capitalizing, and if they don't make the money, then you probably end up driving it that fast and kill someone. Really, right? So it's just pure destruction behind what they're giving you out there, really. And as I said, I was saying to Kazabek there, really, I've not been to Merita there really yet, but I'm just it's probably a slower life pace, really, right? But you're living, as opposed to here, you're just existing. You know?
That's very true. That's very true. So even that will, accelerate my return to Merita. Because once they start putting up those light stands and start, irradiating people, for the sake of my little ones, I'll, we'll have this discussion much, much earlier. And I'll say, you know what, this thing is not good. And I mean, they've been to Merita several times, so they know what it's like on that end. Yeah. So the same way I moved here is the same way I'll move back. It's all about not having attachments to materialism or anything like that.
Well, it's that really, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Being able to kind of say distance yourself, you know, kind of to not have that attachment there, yeah, because that's where we're caught, really, isn't it? I mean, with a lot of us, even with this knowledge, to make that transition, it's not so easy, you
Yes.
know.
And you see, the thing is the only reason that it's not so easy is because of the attachment.
Yeah.
That is essentially it.
Mm-hmm.
Once we can see beyond the attachment,
Mm-hmm.
then it makes it even easier to move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then having been born and raised over on in Merita,
Mm-hmm.
I can understand somebody who's born and raised on this end would be a bit apprehensive of moving, to Merita.
Mm-hmm.
But all I have to say is, man, like it will get to a point where if it's not the individual, but the individual's children,
Mm-hmm.
it will get to a certain extent where, if you really want to survive, that's where you have to go to. Because you
Yeah.
notice, like, Merita doesn't get, all these natural disasters that are
No, it
happening.
doesn't. It doesn't. Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. It's
And
protected,
then you
really,
see,
isn't it?
yeah, and then if you see like the history of the planet, being billions of years old,
Mm-hmm.
and humanity being hundreds of thousands of years old,
Mm-hmm.
like when we look back at this time, from when, the Gurkha, decided to take over, that period is actually a very small period. So, in a couple of thousand years from now, our descendants will be talking about, oh yeah, there was a certain period in time,
Yeah.
you know,
These
things were a
people.
bit things were a bit tight, but we pulled
Yeah.
everything back together, so it's all
Yeah.
good again how it was before.
Yeah. It seems like a long time, isn't it? But as you say, when you put it in the perspective of like the age of the planet, really, then it's just a small blip, really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Because you see, we come from this earth, and this planet, irrespective of whether we are here or not, it is going to survive. That is something that we as human beings need to realize. Like how modern man has declared himself the most intelligent creature on earth. I'm the brightest of everything. And then, they developed IQ tests where even within the modern man, oh, I'm a genius. My IQ is above 150.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we've gotten to an extent that we actually think that we know what we are doing. We
Yeah.
lack the humility, we lack the discipline.
Yeah.
But, the earth being the earth will do what it has to do to survive, whether we are in it or not.
We are privileged to be here still, really, but we just don't appreciate that, really. That's the ultimate, really, because we can't destroy something we didn't create. And the sooner they understand that, really, then perhaps really things will probably change, you know.
Yeah,
So
that is true. And the best thing is that, with the art center, they teach that. And once people know that, then at least they know what they need to do, and they know what is right and wrong, and they know and are guided towards a path towards being, protectors instead of destroyers, which is good. Yeah.
yes, my brother, I appreciate you coming on the show and giving us a nice input of what it's like in Kenya and your family and everything else.
Oh
And
man, the pleasure was all mine. The pleasure was all mine.
no, 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 the pleasure was mine, really.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I will say Duau and the Iri Heru, and then I
Yeah.
will pass you on back to Kasabez Makma.
All right, wow. Yeah.
Duau, Iri Heru.
Okay.
Ujai Yatni.
Ujai, Ujai.
Oh, yeah, that was brilliant, man.
Yeah, that's good. You guys got a special treat.
We
Or
did, we
I
sure
guess
did. Yeah,
all our listeners got a special treat this week.
yeah, we sure did, really. I appreciate that, yeah.
Hmm.
So, well, we're gonna bring the show to a end. I don't know if is there anything that you would like to kind of say,
Oh
share
no,
with the
nah,
listeners
no.
out there, really.
Mine stole the show. I don't have anything. He said it all.
Well, something to encourage those people that really out there who are listening and not quite sure. Really, they probably think we're talking mumbo jumbo or something like that, And who are these people? Then really, Um,
Right, right, right.
Because there are a lot of skeptic people out there still really right that the truth really is like it's hard for them really to accept it because that comfort zone that they're on, they probably need that little bit more nudge, so I don't know, it might be something you might say that that might inspire,
Yeah,
motivate.
you never know. And,
Mm.
it's good that, he's got a little bit different perspective coming from the continent and also being someone who's inspired by the information that he's not near Earth Center. Like maybe a lot of our listeners are not near
Mm.
Earth Center either. But
Mm.
there's a lot of ways that you can connect with the knowledge
Mm.
and make it real in your life, even if you can't come for classes right away.
Mm. Because you write a lot as well in the Fireflies, don't you?
Yeah, I've got quite a few articles out here.
Mm. Yeah, so
There's a lot of great information in the Firefly
Mm-hmm.
uh, magazine, and the different publications we have, the calendar, the commandments poster y'all were just talking about. So the publications are really a wealth of knowledge. Like I said, that's how I got originally got introduced to the Earth Center too.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, so we just want to say duawu really, right, for being on the show, and it's a privilege really to have you on the show.
Yeah, duo to you too for having me. Anytime you can just let me know if
Well, we would
you
like to
want me
welcome you
back.
back
I'll
really,
be
yeah.
available.
Yeah, but probably trying to figure some nice questions to ask you the next time round.
Yeah, we went 2 hours and never got to the topic we were supposed to talk about. But it's cool because I guess the information we were able to share, I thought was pretty relevant anyway. So hopefully our listeners could get something from it.
Well, I mean, what he exposed there really, right, was that even on the motherland there really, that where people would think that they're accessible to this kind of information, and it's not, you
Yeah,
know. And so you can understand and see really like that our people out there really, you know, the Europeans, they did a very very good job really, right, on seducing our mind, you
yeah.
know.
They did a great job. Like Barack Obama and Donald Trump are doing a great job.
Yeah.
Uh, our public school systems and prison systems are doing a great job of maintaining this
Mm.
bastion of colonialism. So, we gotta match that effort.
Mm.
We gotta match that effort and do a great job too if we're gonna compete with what they're doing.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's gonna take all our effort, all our willpower, all our courage. Um, it's gonna take our best efforts. This is warfare. You
Mm.
know, just to reclaim the self is a war. It's a battle. But we know where that battle started. It comes from the holy drama. So it's not something we should think is gonna end somehow.
No.
We just got to keep fighting.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, so we just want to say duawo once again, and I hope that you have a nice, happy, divine holiday kind of zemzem later on.
Yes, yes, yeah. We'll be having that in the next, hour and a half. We'll be starting. So
Okay, okay then.
yeah, thank you, brother. And I guess you guys are probably wrapping up for the night, but yeah, wishing you to have a good rest of your evening as well. Uh,
Yeah, we're coming up to the night hours now. We're 11:17 now, really.
Rest,
So
a good rest of your night. It's about this, what, 11 you said? Yeah, okay, so you guys are getting ready for bed pretty much, huh?
your day's just begun.
All right. Okay, Sin.
All right, then.
Brother Nahibsa.
Nahib say, yeah. Okay, then.
All
Here,
right.
here.
Hiro Hiro.
All right.
Wow.
And we would just like to say duau to Bless FM for giving us this platform that we can share the works of Master Nebnaba Lamusa Moran Denibig. And as you can see, really, the knowledge that he has imparted on us really is well appreciated. And yeah, you hear from the brother himself from Kenya how they basically have destroyed our civilizations, really, our people, and put them in a state of docile, you know. And yeah, we just appreciate the knowledge that we have, really, right? And we hope that you will continue listening, because we know we're trying our best, really, right, to kind of to share some of the knowledge that we have, so that you can probably even impart that on your own children's, really, right, and encourage them, really, right, to kind of set a better path for themselves. And just to say, like, for the next over the next few days, we'll be having a series of I just want to read out, there's a few, hold on. There's a series of Zemzem, oh, here we are. On Friday the 6th of September, there's a Zemzem on that day at the Herb Center, the Saturday the 7th, so that's the day of Wusa on the 6th. On the Saturday is Eru the Great, on the Sunday is Set, on the Monday is Aishat, and on the Tuesday is Nebfis. And these are, and then on the Wednesday, the 11th of September, we have the New Year's Day. And Thursday, the 19th, we have Fish Day. And Sunday, the 29th, is the day of Tuti. So these are all days, really, like that we be at the Hearth Center, we be having community Zemzems. And the public, you're welcome to come along and partake and share along in this in our community Zemzem. And you can come and have that experience of what we was talking about, going through the ablution stages, doing the prayers and going through the Zemzem itself. So for those who would like to even have that experience, really, you're welcome to share with us on those dates. So it starts from the 6th, and it's more or less every day going forward from there, really, right? There will be community Zemzem, and this will be held at the temple, 21 Sunnyside Road, Leighton, London E10 7BB. And if you want, the information, the telephone number, if you would like to come along, you can contact us, really, right, and find out, any inquiries that you might have. And the telephone number is 0207 175 4144. I repeat again, 0207 175 4144. And the email address is inquiries-uk@theearthcenter.org. And the Zemzem starts from 7:30 to it's 7:30, but on Sunday it will be from 3:30. So you're all welcome to come and share with us on those days. So what is it? Friday, yeah. So it starts Friday. Yeah, so Friday the 6th of September to the 11th and the 19th and the 29th. So those 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th and 11th of September, all those dates, you can come along at the temple. You know, you're welcome. Thursday, the 19th of September, and the 29th of September. So anyone who would like to share, come and share with us in our communal Zemzem, please do come along, really, right? And you know, treat yourself to something that you probably will never experience in your life before. And so we'll see you then, those who come along, really. I haven't got no more announcement for now, really. So we'll just like to say Dua for bless, really, once again, really, like, for giving us this platform, and for our two guests, really, like, from Chicago. You know, you hear what they had to say. We probably didn't get to cover the full topic that we wanted to cover, but the information, really, like, was good. And, you know, I hope that we welcome that information there, really. And for myself, I'd just like to say Duau and Iri Iru to one and all. I'd just like to play you just can't get this thing to activate.
No cigarette smoking in my room.
Mm-hmm.
This song goes in the memory of the beloved prophet Nebnabala Musa Morodinabig, the doggone prince, Maher, the truth teller, Besina Basa, which means I'll be appreciated after I'm gone. He's the man who overcome the devils with love. He's the man who speaks because he has something to say. The man of wisdom, the definition of humanity. Maheru, Maheru, Maheru. I'm from far away, I'm from far away, far away, from far away, West Africa, from far away, Prophet Naba, far away, La Musa, far away, Morodinabig, far away, Prophet from far away, Prophet Naba, far away, from far away, from far away, Prophet from far away. He's the man of wisdom. He's the man who lived by faith, and not by fear. His greatest wealth is the richness of his soul. He's the man who lived by faith and not by fear. He's the double-edged sword. He's the double-edged sword. He's the key to unlock the treachery. Follow truth and you shall find him. He's the definition of humanity. He's the beginning and the end. He's the prophet Naba. Far away, I'm from far away, far away, from far away, West Africa, from far away, Prophet Naba, far away, La Musa, far away, Morodinabig, far away, Prophet from far away, Prophet Naba, far away, from far away, from far away, Prophet from far away. Bob Marley say, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Have no fear for atomic energy. 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophet while we stand aside and look? Oh, some say it's just a part of it. We gotta fulfill the book. Come to Maheru, come to Maheru, come to Maheru, come to Maheru. You got your own told story. Come from far.